So let's go on to Dean in Washington, who wants to know how to debate morality with someone who believes in an afterlife. You're on with Tracie and Jen. Dean. Hey.
Hi.
Hey, Dean.
Can you hear me fine?
You sound great.
Okay, this is my first time calling, so I'm a little nervous, but I really like your show, and I really appreciate it because I was a Christian for the first 20 years of my life, and it's because of your show that I was able to, deconvert and kind of look at the world with my eyes open. So I just wanted to start by saying thanks.
Okay, so you have a little bit then of perspective around what it means to believe in an afterlife.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily make arguing around it easier. For some context, I've been thinking a lot about, obviously I just deconverted it. I've been thinking about this stuff a lot lately. So I wrote an essay on kind of the problems I had with the Christian idea of purity.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like the Christian idea of purity is kind of like one of the most like controversial things. It's like it's the biggest thing Christianity pushes. It's kind of contrary to the culture.
Right.
It's absolutely toxic.
Yeah. And it's just weird. It's like a weird arbitrary. Well, I mean, it's not weirdly arbitrary because you can get like where they get into it and like the benefits that people get from it from a imbalanced society.
Yeah.
But it's almost just like saying, there's some sort of virtue to never eating broccoli. Right, and then just promoting never eating broccoli is like the best thing someone can. And if you eat broccoli, you're somehow soiled yourself, and it's like just the weirdest thing.
Yeah, and I grew up in that, and I did, and now looking at I think it is kind of messed up in some ways. But so after writing something, I've gotten a lot of discussion from a lot of mostly online, but the thing is. Really difficult to debate many people because what they'll end up saying, is like it doesn't matter if it's harmful. Like I don't know if it's harmful, it's unhealthy because it lays on a burden too heavy to bear. But say, it doesn't matter because it's worth it. This harm is worth it because if you're following God, or God doesn't define harm the same way because what matters is eternal harm. Like say, as long as God exists, God will work it all out in the end. It's frustrating because I mostly be like I'm trying to debate with or trying to argue with her.
You can't really. Well, wait a minute. You can't have a debate about morality where one person is basically allowed to say, I believe God has this particular moral plan, and that's my morality, and I'm going to argue from that position. And then you're arguing from a completely different position, right? Because she's just going to keep coming back and saying, because God. I mean, she has to be called on that. You don't just get to make up a God and then say that's where your morals come from and then start dictating what morals are.
For me, for the perspective I have, it's kind of arbitrary to me whether God does or doesn't exist. I can't know for certain, but it doesn't matter to me in the context of this moral context, because to realize to me is like if these beliefs harm people, it doesn't matter if God said them.
Right, but you're gonna. Right. I mean, to find any activity that comes with no risk is going to be almost. I mean, I'm gonna say impossible. Maybe somebody's gonna come up with one and be like, "This has no risk," and I'll be wrong. But I'm gonna say, like broadly and generally speaking, you can find risks associated with anything, right? The question isn't whether somebody's taking a risk or whether harm can come from it. Harm can come from me driving to my office during the week. The question, though, is, how I value that, why I value that, what this adds to my life, what this, gives for me and how this benefits me versus what those risks are, which is up to me, right? I can't take risks for other people, but I can agree to risk for myself. And I guess what I'm saying is if they're just going to point to something and say there's a risk, but there's risks that come with, I think, having an unfulfilled sex life.
Right.
Right? I think that's damaging.
when I was referring to harm, I was more referring to my belief. The belief does harm. I don't really feel like I've had that many people argue from risk, because I don't think that'd be a strong argument. But it bugs me, because it's like, I mean, I don't have to follow these rules myself. I don't care. But it hurts me to see. I mean, I know I have so many Christian friends. I know they're living in a Christian culture with all these rules. Right. And I think these rules do so much harm. And it's like, I don't care if you're a Christian and you believe it. If these rules are harming you, if these ideas, because in response, I've got lots of testimonies. People like, yeah, these rules did mess me up. They did make my sex life harder, and it's like, so they do mess people up, and it's like,
right, but they're seeing this. I mean, you were there, right? You believed this, so you understand that they see this as like a temporary inconvenience before you hit eternity. So for them, anything that you have to sacrifice or suffer in this life is completely tolerable and completely temporary compared to the eternity that you're going to have with God in bliss, right? I mean, that's the argument. And so if we allow them to basically have that platform to start with, I don't think there's anything you're going to be able to say that's going to make a dent.
Right, because the other thing is, you know that in their worldview, if they don't pass this test, they don't get the afterlife.
Yeah, they're going to burn in hell forever if they have sex outside their marriage and don't get, forgiveness or whatever.
I don't think I believe that as a Christian, but
a lot of Christians do.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
I think there's so much. I mean, I didn't believe that, but I thought that there was even just whether you believe the afterlife or not is reliant on sex. I think is a matter of guilt. I think. I feel for me, I didn't follow any of these rules because I was afraid I was going to go to hell. I didn't think that, but it was the debilitating guilt of. I mean, these are rules I couldn't follow. I mean, I'm a human being, and I feel like, I don't know.
No, that's the cycle, though, right? You can't follow the rules because you're a human being, and these rules are inherently not human, right? They're made for some ideal that doesn't exist, and even the Christians admit that. They will admit that, this is fallen world, and this is why you can't be perfect, right? So literally, they put these rules down that do not reflect the human condition. They interpret the condition of humans to be what do you call it? Like not to be optimal, right? So they're saying that we are suboptimal now, and that we should be able to live up to these rules. We can't because we're suboptimal, and that's what salvation is for. It makes up that difference, right, between the fallen human and what it should be. And when you deal with human beings and you're saying that human beings don't get to define what is human, that something else is what defines what's human and not people, and what people actually do and what people actually need, and what, the real psychology of people and the real physiology of people, when you just simply say none of that matters, that's all messed up now, and we have to go by this map that is the perfect person, right? You're not even on the same page with, they're busy dehumanizing everything that's going to make people happy and fulfilled. Yeah. And you're basically saying these rules will make you unhappy and unfulfilled, and they're saying it doesn't matter because there's this afterlife, and this is the goal anyway. Even though you're not perfect, you can't live up to it, you just keep on doing it. Just like that workout thing we were doing with the guy with the addiction. Yeah. You make this mistake, you ask God to forgive you, and then you go on and you try to be perfect some more. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's not a perfect human.
It just seems really hard to find any common ground regarding morality.
Well, I have a question. Why are you having these debates? I mean, what's your goal in this?
I'd like to convince people. I mean, honestly, if I could convince people that, hey, this is wrong, this is bad, I would like that, because I think.
Okay, so how are you going to? Let's say that I am back the way I was. I'm the fundamentalist Christian. You want to convince me about morality, and I believe that the Bible is the Word of God. God said it. That's it. How are you going to convince me if you're going to allow me to argue from the position of God?
That is tough. That is tough.
Yeah.
Because I think you have to care about yourself.
I do. I want to go to heaven and be with Jesus. I want to live forever in bliss with God and, be that person that, makes God happy because God created me and loves me.
I don't think God's gonna. It's always seemed clear to me that God doesn't really care about you while you're on Earth. So,
are you kidding? He died for me. He died for me. He was tortured for like a day, and then he hung on a cross. And this is a guy who came to Earth and was rejected and willing to suffer and die for me for crimes that I was going to commit as a human being. How is that not love that someone would lay down their life for you?
Yeah, but I don't see how any of that's relevant to our life now.
Because I've been redeemed, right? I was destined for hell. I was destined for an eternity of damnation, and Jesus stepped up, and he died for me to be that sacrifice, so that I could then be acceptable to God. Because as I am, I'm just nowhere near acceptable because fall of man and all that.
I really think morality should be defined by what we do here on Earth, and I've heard all these testimonies and stuff, but I don't think that most of those kinds of ideas are relevant to life on Earth. And
well, that's because life on Earth is not what it's supposed to be. I mean, it's all evil and horrible because of the fall. And who better to help me navigate this kind of horror than the God who loves me and has the perfect path? He knows what's perfect. I'm imperfect. I don't know what's perfect, so it's better for me to follow what God says. And if it doesn't make sense to you, it's because you just don't understand the mind of God, which is perfect.
Yeah. I really don't think I came into this ready to debate I'm
trying to show you something, which is that when you give these people God, when you don't challenge their God, the foundation, you're going to get into this weird cycle of wildness that goes down the rabbit hole. And you cannot win against accepting their God as a premise.
It's just frustrating because it seems like I can't get to morality. I wouldn't be able to argue morality until I can disprove God, and it seems like an awful lot of steps to take.
I don't think you have to disprove God, but you have to explain to them that you don't accept the God as the explanation for morality, right. And they're going to have to demonstrate why you should. That's the point.
I kind of get it. I don't know if I.
It's like saying, if I were to say to them, if I were to explain it to them and say, look, if I said that I have like a magic tennis ball at home that endows me with like moral answers, I go and I focus on it and then I get the moral answer. If you don't believe the magic tennis ball is giving me those moral answers, then you're not going to really care what is expressed morally by me, via that tennis ball. And I think that if a theist understands that you just do not accept that, like why should I accept that your God exists and is dictating this morality is the first question. You're saying that your God is the basis of morality, so can you explain to me how you even know that foundation is there? I think that's a fair question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I one person who said to me, like, hey, I can't argue, if God doesn't exist, I can't argue Christian morality.
Well, there you go.
I was like, then we can't have a discussion because Christian morality is kind of useless if you can't argue it without God. And I was like, I understand that, but it's like, I do not. Is this guy even willing to look at the world through a lens that maybe God wouldn't exist? It's like he can only argue Christian morality from that perspective, but he's not willing to accept an alternative perspective. And
no, but he has to demonstrate his, okay? Because the world that you see, he sees too, or she, or whoever, right? The world that you're looking at, when you say that you see a desk, they see a desk too. They're adding a God, and you're saying, I don't see that. Like, that's something you're saying is there, but I'm not seeing that. And so if they're going to make this addition of something that is really integral to the rest of their argument, that premise has to be acceptable to you. You have to be able to say, okay, I now understand why you believe in this God, and so we can proceed. But they have to explain that. It's only fair that if they want to argue with you about morality via God, they have got to be able to explain that what this foundation even is, where it comes from, like, what is this thing? They've got to explain that to you so that you guys can have some common ground to proceed with.
Yeah.
But if you just say, okay, yeah, you can argue this from God and the Bible, and you just argue it from your own perspective, and I'll argue it from my perspective, never the twain are going to meet.
That's true. That's definitely true, and I've definitely seen that. They really don't intersect at all.
You could literally be showing me the genocides in the Old Testament, and I would just be like, because God knows better.
Yeah.
Because God knows better. This is the best of all possible worlds.
So, I realize we're getting close to the top of the hour here, so I don't want to take up a lot of time, but when you put it out there that they need to justify why they're basing morality on God, okay, don't expect that you're going to get to the actual morality conversation.
Yeah, you're probably not.
Okay, because they're going to...
I guess that's true.
But that's okay, because that might be a very interesting conversation.
Well, it's okay because you can't have the morality conversation when you're both coming at this from two different realities. I mean, this isn't even like two different perspectives. This is like a different reality.
Right.
A totally different... What they think a human being is isn't what you think a human being is. You know, and what they think is like the real underlying foundation of the universe is not what you accept as the real underlying foundation of the universe. The entirety of reality is different to them.
I definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely see that. And I definitely saw that my understanding of reality was different when I was there, though. I'd like to think I wasn't as unreasonable as some of these people are, but I don't know.
Clearly I was, because I was able to still argue this. It's like, yeah, that's where it comes. You know, it's just it's a kill-all, right? Because God knows better. Yeah, but how do you explain this horrible thing? God knows better. Fall of man. God knows better. You just keep, rinse and repeat. Just keep saying that. That's all you need to say.
I think if that was satisfying to me, I think I would have stayed a Christian.
Well, there's a lot of other things that can mess you up, that messed up my Christianity for me. But I mean, there's like all kinds of stuff that's, but you can't have a debate about morality when both of you think that the source of morality is like completely different. You're basically saying that morality is something that, belongs to humanity, as far as like human morality is morality among humans, and we define that morality based on what we are. And they're basically saying, no, what you are is completely hosed up, and there's this other thing that we accept as what you should be, that's drawn up in this book or whatever, that this God knows what it is, and he's trying to tell you, and so you need to listen to that God. They're just not even... What you were describing, like what is good for somebody, they see good for somebody is totally different. It's better for you to like die, have a millstone tied around your neck, and be thrown into a body of water, than to cause somebody else to stop believing in God. And you would be like, what? What? Because they're just seeing a whole different, value system that's topsy-turvy compared to where you're at.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, good luck. Just kind of think about it. Basically, you have to start asking them to demonstrate their foundations before you start accepting them and allowing them to just like run roughshod.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think most of the friends I still have are Christians, so I'm worried. I wonder if I'm going to have to do this a lot.
Well, maybe not. I mean, you might join some forums. Are you a member in any atheist forums or groups where you can communicate and chat and bounce ideas?
Not really. I mean, most of our discussions are going on through like Reddit.
Yeah.
But I don't really. The only atheist. Well, the only atheist I really know well in person is my brother and my cousin who live with me. So, yeah, that's definitely something I've been thinking about, is trying to broaden my community.
Yeah, do. I would say, like, go and read some atheist blogs. And I mean, I'm not saying that to say, like, oh, they'll tell you what to think or say. Because, frankly, you could read atheist blogs that disagree with each other. So what I'm basically saying is at least it'll give you something to think about. Like you can look at points, counterpoints, even within the atheist community and kind of say, does this make sense to me? Or is this too easy to, like, even I could come up with debunking this thing. Like, I don't think this is a good argument this person's putting forward. I mean, you need to still judge it. Don't get me wrong. Like, use your brain and judge this stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, expose yourself to some other ideas and see how other people handle it and what you think is good and sound and what you think isn't.
Well, and the other thing
Yeah.
I would suggest is also read some religious blogs, because there's a lot of religious blogs that try to debunk the atheist position.
Yeah, and
As if
sometimes
there is an atheist position.
you read it and you just think to yourself, that's not what I think. Like,
Yeah.
what are they talking about?
But you
Yeah.
can take that and kind of think about whatever points they bring up and, come up with your own responses, because I promise you somebody will pull that out in a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be prepared
Yeah.
for stuff.
All right. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
thank
well-
you, Dean. We're going to go ahead and let you go. And we have like a couple
Yeah,
of
it's about
callers.
time.
All right. Well, thank you.